This is Owe and Vohl. Last episode, they defeated Jellyhast and continued their journey through Blackfathom Deeps. This time their goal is to venture much deeper into the dungeon. As it turns out, the temple ahead has quite a few surprises waiting for them. Soon after defeating Jellyhast, Owe and Vohl continued toward their next target. Vohl had been told by her horde friends that this enemy was part of an important quest, making the detour worthwhile. Along the way, they once again found themselves battling nagas and satyrs. Before long, they discovered that their next target was a man named Lorgus Jet, hiding in a side cave of the dungeon. As expected, he was guarded by yet another satyr. After hearing his name, Owe and Vohl remembered being told that Lorgus Jet was a high-ranking member of a group known as the Twilight's Hammer. They made short work of the satyr, who ironically rewarded them with a hammer. Sadly, neither Owe nor Vohl had any real use for it. After a brief recovery, Owe and Vohl wasted no time attacking Lorgus Jet, for such a prominent member of the Twilight's Hammer. He proved surprisingly unremarkable in combat. What was remarkable, however, was that Owe and Vohl realized Lorgus Jet was apparently only useful to members of the Horde. The longer Vohl stayed in contact with her Horde friends, the less useful their advice seemed to become. After this encounter, the two took a short break before attempting to sneak past the enemies once again. This time the plan worked considerably better than before. Vohl cast Mind Soothe on the enemies, allowing the pair to slip past them without drawing any unwanted attention. It was a rare moment where everything went exactly according to plan. But even moments like these eventually come to an end. Before long, they reached a point where Mind Soothe could no longer carry them forward, leaving Owe and Vohl with no choice but to face the enemies head-on once again. Blackfathom Deeps seemed remarkably well stocked with hostile creatures, as though someone had decided that every empty corner simply needed another group of them. Both of them fought to the very best of their abilities, and at one point the situation became remarkably close. Owe came to Vohl's aid with blessing of protection, buying her a few precious moments, and when he once again failed to keep every enemy's attention, Vohl wisely used Fade to convince the remaining enemies that someone else was the more pressing concern. The battle settled into a steady rhythm as Owe and Vohl slowly chipped away at their opponents. Every defeated enemy made the next few moments a little more manageable, although the enemies showed no shortage of determination. Despite the pressure, the two remained remarkably coordinated. Owe continued to intercept whatever he could, while Vohl carefully balanced healing with the occasional spell whenever an opportunity presented itself. It was not a particularly elegant fight, but it was an effective one. Little by little, the overwhelming pull began to lose its momentum. What had started as a desperate struggle gradually turned into a battle of endurance, and patience proved just as valuable as strength. The fight dragged on for a while, but they gradually regained control of the situation. Eventually, the last enemy fell, allowing Owe and Vohl to continue their journey back into Twilight's Hammer territory. Encouraged by their previous success, Owe and Vohl attempted to sneak past the next group of enemies. This time, however, the plan unraveled much sooner than expected, and before they knew it, they found themselves fighting another group of Twilight's hammer cultists. It seemed the cultists were slowly catching on to their preferred method of diplomacy. Cultists proved to be no match for Owe and Vohl, falling one after another as the pair steadily pushed deeper into the dungeon. As it happened, this relentless clearing of enemies served a second purpose as well, since the Alliance had conveniently assigned them a quest to deal with these very cultists. Sometimes efficiency simply works out in everyone's favor, except perhaps the cultists. As requested by Argent Guard Manados in Darnassus, Owe and Vohl collected Twilight pendants from the fallen cultists. With the current group finally dealt with, the two took a short break to recover their health and mana before continuing deeper into the dungeon. Even seasoned adventurers know that a few moments of rest are often a wiser investment than an unnecessary corpse run. A short rest was, of course, necessary, but Owe and Vohl wasted little time before moving on. The next group of enemies was promptly engaged, bringing them right to the entrance of a mysterious temple. Whatever awaited inside, it was almost certainly not going to make their journey any easier. Eager to discover what lay inside the temple, Owe and Vohl fought their way forward, defeating one enemy after another. The spellcasters in particular were handled with a simple but effective tactic. By using the surrounding pillars to break their line of sight, Owe could lure them into melee range, where they quickly discovered that casting spells was considerably more difficult with a paladin, standing directly in front of them. With the last guard outside the temple defeated, the Owe and Vohl finally stepped inside. Their next objective was Twilight Lord Kelris, but first they needed to carve a safe path through the temple's defenders. Rather than clearing the entire chamber, they deliberately left several groups untouched, hoping they would remain politely uninvolved once the fight with Kelris began. Experience had taught them that dungeon inhabitants do not always share the same understanding of personal space. A Voidwalker and its master were the last obstacle standing between Owe and Vohl and their encounter with Twilight Lord Kelris. With the path finally clear, Owe performed the obligatory "what could this boss drop" inspection before engaging. Some adventurers prepare by discussing tactics. Others prefer to make sure the potential rewards justify the effort. Owe and Vohl took a short break to recover while discussing their strategy. A well-rested plan, after all, tends to produce better results than an exhausted one. Owe was the first to engage Twilight Lord Kelris, and it quickly became apparent that Vohl was contributing a rather impressive amount of single-target damage for a healer. In fact, she contributed so much that Owe occasionally struggled to keep the boss's attention where it belonged. For brief moments, Vohl found herself tanking instead, proving that she was, apparently, quite capable of filling that role as well, whether she had intended to or not. As the fight unfolded, Owe and Vohl discovered that Twilight Lord Kelris was far less troublesome than they had anticipated. Once again, it was the packs of trash mobs that had posed the greater challenge. The boss's sleep spell was mildly inconvenient, but Vohl was quick to dispel it whenever it landed, leaving Kelris with surprisingly few opportunities to disrupt their rhythm. Yet again, a decidedly one-headed orc somehow managed to provide more than one head for the quest. The Alliance had apparently developed rather optimistic accounting methods when it came to trophy collection. Kelris also rewarded Vohl with an excellent new staff, which she equipped without hesitation. All things considered, this boss had proved to be a very worthwhile investment for both adventurers. Owe's attention was soon drawn to a set of clickable braziers in the middle of the temple. Naturally, there was only one sensible course of action: start clicking them and see what happened. After all, ancient dungeon mechanisms are well known for rewarding curiosity rather than punishing it. As it turned out, the first brazier released a group of water elementals rather than opening the gate. The sudden ambush hit both Owe and Vohl surprisingly hard, but Vohl calmly patched them back up before the situation could get out of hand. It seemed the temple preferred to test curiosity before rewarding it. With the last water elemental defeated, Owe and Vohl took another brief moment to recover. The gate, however, remained firmly shut, leaving only one logical conclusion. The next brazier clearly deserved a click as well. Having already been ambushed once, they were now fully aware that the temple had a habit of hiding surprises behind seemingly innocent interactions. Before trying the next brazier, we decided it would be wise to clear a lone enemy on the far side of the room first. Vohl, meanwhile, appeared to have reached a different conclusion and clicked the brazier before that particular task had been completed. The temple responded immediately by summoning a group of heavily spike-shelled turtles. Quite why they had evolved such formidable defenses remained a mystery. Then again, spending one's entire life in a dark underground temple without a glimpse of sunlight might encourage pyramiding shell growth. The turtles' greatest strength was not their damage, but their persistent knockdown ability, which repeatedly interrupted Owe and Vohl throughout the fight. Even so, the pair handled the encounter without too much trouble. It also reinforced the growing suspicion that activating multiple braziers at the same time would have been a spectacularly bad idea. Being knocked to the ground while being attacked by several groups at once would likely have ended their expedition rather abruptly. With the last turtle finally defeated, Oe and Vohl took yet another well-earned break to recover their health and mana. The temple was proving to be surprisingly generous with opportunities to rest provided. Of course, that one survived its latest surprise first. After taking a moment to skin the fallen turtles, Vohl wasted little time and moved on to the third of the 4 braziers. The temple, remaining committed to its theme of unexpected wildlife, responded by releasing a group of crabs. Apparently, every brazier came with its own carefully curated ecosystem. Compared to the turtles, the crabs proved to be a much more manageable challenge and were dispatched without much difficulty. Better still, defeating them rewarded Oe with another level up. Few things improve morale quite as effectively as becoming noticeably stronger in the middle of a dungeon. Oe's combination of consecration and retribution aura, instead of his devotion aura, proved particularly effective against melee groups. While he focused on one target, the remaining enemies were steadily worn down by the constant area damage, making each focused target noticeably easier to finish. With the last crab defeated, only one brazier remained, and this one had already been activated by Vohl, eager to discover the temple's final surprise. This time a group of lobsters emerged. By now a clear pattern had begun to reveal itself. Blackfathom Deeps seemed to have developed a remarkable fondness for crustaceans, with the last brazier introducing yet another member of the family. At last, the gate to the deepest part of the dungeon slowly opened, revealing the path ahead. Whatever awaited Oe and Vohl beyond it would have to wait for another adventure. Join us next time to see what secrets Blackfathom Deeps still has in store. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of their journey.